This is Rustyn with Metalholic Magazine and The Examiner. Here with me, Flavio, Corky, V of Otherwise. And this is the Otherwise interview because we were going to talk to the Patrick brothers, but they aren't here yet. So we're going to talk to the other side of Otherwise.
The other Otherwise.
The other Otherwise. So we're here with the guys from Otherwise. You guys are out on tour right now with Lacuna Coil. Great tour to be on.
Sir.
You know, they're playing their legacy tour and everything, which is bringing out a great audience. How's the response been for Otherwise so far?
Great, man. I mean, packed houses, you know, it's great playing in front of a receptive audience.
Yeah, we're such a baby band too. Everybody's been mostly surprised. Like, where'd you guys come from? What's going on? Why haven't we heard of you before? All that good stuff. So it's been good. The audience has been great. The crowd's been great. Fans have been great.
Right. Obviously, most of the buzz that we've heard about you guys so far was when your singer Adrian did the song with Maria Brink from In This Moment. And then, of course, sort of went out on tour with her on Mayhem or whatnot, and sang that at a bunch of the shows. How did him doing that with In This Moment sort of open any doors for you guys, if at all?
In a sense, it kind of opened up a little gateway. You know, it opened up the eyes of a lot of people. Definitely, I'd say that the biggest thing was the release of Soldiers when we did that demo. That got a huge audience as well, but almost just as impactful as the Promise did.
Right, you guys got a lot of notoriety out of that. I was reading something about it, and now it slips my mind, but I know somebody picked up the song and they thought it was just wonderful. And
Yeah, we
really put it out there for you.
We played the 48 Hours Festival in Vegas, and Jose, who heads up Serious Octane.
Jose Mangan, yeah.
Yep, liked the show, and just said, hey, what do you guys have that's up next? And we handed him like literally a burned CDR of a few demos that we had been doing.
Right.
He picked Soldiers and started spinning it, and it caught fire totally to, our surprise. Like it was with zero promotion, zero marketing dollars, zero record company behind it. We were the first unsigned band ever in the history of satellite radio to get to #1 on the Serious Octane charts, and it kind of spread like wildfire from there.
Wow, excellent.
Here we come.
Yeah, right.
And we're going to talk about the debut album, True Love Never Dies, comes out on May 8th. But before we get that, let's back up a little bit, get a little backstory on the band and everything. Obviously, brand new band, everybody always wants to know where the name came from.
We're always trying to do something different. The definition of Otherwise is other than supposed. So we're supposed to be doing something. We're trying to, tread new ground and move rock to the next level in general. So we're doing our best and put together a great album and hoping to move forward from there.
And you guys are from Las Vegas, Nevada. What's it like growing up? Because you guys pretty much have lived there most of your lives, haven't you?
Flavio's been there long. You grew up there,
I was
right?
born and bred, yeah. Me and Ryan were actually born in the same hospital. Adrian was born there as well. You were born in Chicago.
Born in Chicago, yeah, but I came in at a young age. I was about 14 when I moved to Vegas, so
Yeah.
I basically grew up there as well.
So what's it like growing up in Vegas?
Oh, you see a lot of casinos go up and down.
And a lot of hookers besides.
Of course debauchery every day, right?
It makes every airport in the U.S. seem boring because there's no like bright lights and shining slot machines and all this pizzazz going on. So all of a sudden you go to another airport and you're like, yo, where's all the excitement? But
It's made an interesting quest for rock and roll.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, how does that, we were talking before we started the interview and everything, you've got some new bands coming out of there, you guys, Adelita's Way is doing well, Taking Dawn,
Yep.
so some stuff starting to happen out of there. Still one of my favorite bands, Sin City Sinners, is
Yeah.
legend there on the Strip,
Yeah.
although Todd's off with Slash right now. So, but what's the scene like there, and what was it like coming up in that scene?
There's actually it was kind of not that great, to be honest. The scene was diminishing, but there was like a revival at one point where it actually sparked up again. People were like wanting to be in bands, and like that scene started growing little by little. But for the most part, like when I first joined Otherwise back in like 2006, 2007, like there wasn't really much of a scene. It was just like battle of the bands, and then like everybody would compete, but outside of that, like there really, I don't know, that's the crappy part about growing up in Vegas. There's so many other things going on, so many big events. It's kind of hard to really develop like a solid like fan base. Outside in the outskirts of the Strip.
Yeah, and like similar to like casinos getting blown up and rebuilt and all that kind of stuff. Quite honestly, the venues in Vegas make it harder than ever because they actually spring up and disappear at a more constant rate than the casinos even do. So the hardest part is like scenes so often develop around a very specific like geographical area or a certain set of clubs, and and there's never been a stable set of clubs in Vegas while I've been growing up there. So it's always like develop a scene here, and then in 6 months make sure that you have contact info for everybody so they can come to the next venue with you. It's open, you know what I mean? It's interesting, but you know, I think with all those bands you mentioned, like there was always, thankfully Vegas is close enough to LA. Like we were playing, you know, almost as many shows in LA as we were Vegas, as we were, you know, as the spark was igniting and things were starting to move. We were just like back, forth.
Phoenix in the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, I want to get a little backstory on the band about how you all came together.
Well, the brothers were born in the same house.
In the same hospital.
Yeah, in the same hospital.
I joined, like I said, back in 2006, 2007, through a mutual friend that I knew. I was in the process of leaving a prior project I was working on, so I wanted to play more shows and jump in a bigger project. And Corky joined.
Yeah, Chris Cale, who the now bass player in Five Finger Death Punch, actually used to work with Flavio, and gave him my phone number. And next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call saying, "Hey, we need a drummer for a gig in a couple of weeks. Can you do it?" And I mean, quite honestly, at the time, this was the only band in Vegas that I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like a lot of fun," you know. And you know, that went on from there. V's story, however, is the most interesting of how he came into the band, because he quite literally just showed up at the brothers' doorstep and refused to leave until we had him in the band. Thankfully, we didn't kick him out.
It worked.
Yes. Persistence and what? Perseverance and not taking no for an answer? What would you call
A lot
that?
of drunk nights.
He's still getting hazed.
He'll be like Jason Newsted. He'll be in the band for 10 years and still getting a haze because he'll be the newest guy.
I'll be the hottest and making the most money.
Now, how does the songwriting process work? Every band's different, so how does the songwriting process work for you guys?
Usually, when I first joined the band, it was a little different. We didn't have anybody in the band with the knowledge and expertise as Corky does. Like, he knows Pro Tools like the back of his hand. You know, it was more just like jamming and you know, riffing and stuff like that.
Old school.
Yeah, and memorizing ideas. But until we actually started taking the band to the next level is right around the time when Corky joined, and he started implementing, you know, like recording sessions and actually like, you know, recording ideas and then going back to them, listening to it, and then like letting them flourish from there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, even like the demo for Soldiers, we had the basic idea and had done the basic groove in the rehearsal space. Adrian had a basic melody, you know, I mean, like just real early ideas, and it was like, okay, come over to the house, let's get this track down so we can listen to it and see what we want to do. And like, I mean, Ryan recorded the riff, I think 3 or 4 times total, and we just started, you know, okay, let's do this. How do we want to sort out the arrangement from there? And I mean, those same 2 or 3 takes start off the actual demo that went on Octane, because that was what we had. Like, it was just like lay it down, keep building it, and that way we were able, like with the studio and with our live rehearsals, we were able to put it all together. And as soon as we came up with the idea with our rehearsal, take it to the studio, record it, see where that goes from there. And we spent a lot of last year demoing out songs in my garage and getting that stockpile of songs put together to that what largely eventually became the album. Because once we got signed, we were signed on December 20th, and we started recording our first record 10 days later, on January 2nd. So it was really quick, and thankfully we had that back story and that backlog and that practice in the actual studio. So when we went to record the actual album, we were like, okay, we know we need this, make sure we do this overdub, all that kind of stuff.
Now, is there one or two primary songwriters in the band, or do you all write, or?
It's all been spread out pretty well. A lot of times, like, it'll either be a melody idea from Adrian or a riff idea from Ryan, and then we'll all just start building from there. Yeah.
So now, who produced the debut?
Jay Baumgartner, he did albums by like Papa Roach and Bush, and he's been mixing the latest Bush stuff that's coming out lately. Lincoln Parker's in that studio, Incubus. I mean, he's had a long track record, especially of breaking bands in our genre. Papa Roach is an example of that as well. It was great to work with him.
So the name of the album, True Love Never Dies, comes out on May 8th. What's the story behind the album? I know there's like a story, something tragic, if I remember correctly.
My best friend, cousin to Adrian and Ryan, died actually last Halloween.
Right.
You know, and that inspired the name of the album actually. But the rest of it is actually just a culmination of just like stuff that we've been through. You know what I mean? It's a passion, like a love that, you know, for it to exist, it has to, you know, it never dies. You know, so it's like, I don't know, it kind of inspired that incident. You know, inspired a lot of you know, towards the album, like the name and all that stuff. But he actually had a tattoo of it, "True Love Never Dies," on his neck as well.
So like one of our shirts actually is modeled after his chest piece as well. But like, I mean, like, even it's one of those stories too, where like lyrically and the way we ordered the songs on the record, it's kind of a story of you know, love, loss, and redemption. You know, kind of like a part 1, part 2, and part 3, which was kind of almost accidental when we kind of looked at it and was like, okay, these songs are supposed to go together and create a story out of it as well. So we ended up putting it all together that way.
Every song on an album has some sort of a backstory to it. Are there 1 or 2 songs on the album, other than Soldier we've already talked about, are there 1 or 2 songs on the album that have like an unusual or significant story that's...
Crimson actually, it's probably one of those that fit that description. You know, when you listen to it, you're like, what is this talking about? But like when you actually understand the story, it's you know, Ryan and Adrian, they had their best friend, the dog, Ruckus. You know, he died of like cancer and a tumor. And you know, when you speak of Crimson is on the floor, it's actually like its tumor had split, and they woke up in the morning. There was just a big puddle of blood. You know, and the dog unfortunately was dying, but. You know, that's something that, you know, Ryan and Adrian, like, you know, are huge animal lovers, just like us as well. But you know, when you interpret it, it could have different meanings. You know, and that's it worked perfect with that song too. When you listen to it, you're like, okay, I get it. You know, but it could also mean other stuff too.
Yeah, because that one, Adrian had actually finished all the lyrics for it before we even got rolling on it, and I was convinced it was about an abusive relationship. And he's like, no, actually, it's the whole story. I was like, oh. Well, that works both ways. Those songs, it's always good like that. You know, there's you always got to look deeper into lyrics. I mean, even Soldiers. I mean, not even to go back to it, but like Soldiers has been reinterpreted, and I wouldn't say misinterpreted, but it gets reinterpreted by different groups of people, very very specifically as that song. Like, I mean, the military took hold of that song from the obvious reference of Soldiers. But the song was a metaphor about not being heard, being in an unsigned band, struggling for years and years and years, and trying to figure out how to keep moving on and moving forward and soldiering through that adversity. So I mean, it's an every person's song, but also has a very direct and obvious relationship with the military folks as well. So it's like hitting both sides of the coin, which I mean, quite honestly, was completely accidental.
Yeah, and lyrically,
You know?
those are the best songs.
Yeah.
Because you know, I've had some people who write their lyrics that they'll tell you in detail what it was about because they want you to understand from their point of view. Then you get other artists that are like, I don't want to talk about that. I want people to interpret it their own way, whatever they get out of it.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, I want to ask you guys. Everybody has a moment of epiphany, if you will, whether it was a song, an album they heard, an artist they saw, where they were like, this is what I want to do. So for each of you, if you could share with us what that moment was for you, the song, the album, the artist, whatever it was that...
I remember being at a Mudvayne show, and I was standing in a mosh pit, and somehow like the crowd just split up, and it was just like me standing there, and I was like just, you know, looking at, you know, the singer Chad, and I'm like, is he like just looking at me, like, and it was like this intimidating, not intimidating, but just like a weird, like awkward moment where I was like why is this dude like looking at me all crazy? But it was like there was like a difference of like when you see people on stage, you know, when you're actually in the crowd, you know, and that want of like, dude, I want to do that, you know, I want to have that effect on someone. I want to like, you know, one day like make some kid just standing in the audience like have that you know, possess that like power, you know, not really power, but like just be able to do that, you know, like I think was what kind of inspired me. Also too, Deftones, I was a huge fan of Deftones growing up, you know, and watching them, that rawness on stage, you know, just who cares if they, you know, flub here and there, but like the music's there and that energy just overcomes all of it. You know?
Absolutely. How about you, Corky?
My first show was a Motley Crue show, and if your first show is watching Tommy Lee do his thing behind a drum kit, that certainly changes your life. I'd never seen anything like it. To this day, still haven't seen anything like it. Like, it was one of a kind show. And I just remember just looking up and being like, what is going on here and how is this happening? that made me want, like I had just started playing drums right before that show, so that made me want to stick with playing drums. As far as like playing music with a band, the first pit I ever went into was actually at a Nirvana show. I grew up in Seattle, and it was just that that really powerful feeling of like oneness with like the band and the audience. It was such a band that tried to break down those walls between audience and band. And I just felt like that was a really powerful show and a powerful moment. I was like, all right, this is really what I'd like to do. This is awesome. And if I can somehow, create that similar experience with my bands, like that's certainly the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, to say one moment's it's a pretty strong statement to have. I don't have a one moment. I would say that music saved my life entirely. I mean, I've been through a lot of different things in life, and collectively throughout my life, going to concerts. My first concert being Metallica's Black Album tour. I was like 4 years old, up on the grid rail. I remember them coming down and playing for me. That's obviously like
I saw that tour as well. It was awesome.
Very, very effective in branding me and my history. But just being on stage, connecting with the people, the overall satisfaction of everything that involves music and what music's about, the purity in it, is what's drawn me to it further and further. More and more deeper I get in, the more I want it. I mean, it's a never-ending spiral, So it's always and never, as we say, life by music, LBM. It's not one thing.
It'll make you want to show up at somebody's doorstep and never leave.
That's it.
Well, that sort of brings us full circle. You were talking about the scene in Vegas and how it's like you had to have everybody's contact info to move from one place to another. Now, of course, when I was growing up, I mean, Kiss was my thing, and we had rock stars then, and there was that era of that aura of mystique, but that's sort of totally changed now. There really aren't rock stars anymore. And now with social media and everything, which is how everybody stays connected, and you really do a lot of DIY stuff yourself. How do you guys feel about that? Do you feel, because we've sort of lost that aura of mystique in a way, but is it offset by the fact that you guys now have a greater connection to your fans through social media?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the internet's a beautiful thing. But without the internet, we'd be in a whole different spot, obviously. So to be
You
able
wouldn't have tennis elbow.
Right, exactly. Right. Well, I mean, if you're able to give our fans more content of what we want to give them to begin with, it's a powerful weapon. So to have that ability to do those things, I think gives us a different opportunity to create something new. So.
Yeah, I think like the old paradigm as well is a lot like, a new band that you like would be like a new shiny car. Like it's really awesome when you see it and identify with it and get it for the first time. Like, this is great, but it gets old and it ends up falling apart, getting rid of it and moving on to the next. And like social media ends up turning fans into like close bonds and closer friendships than you ever could have before, and more communication than you ever could have before. And those things, if they're done well and done right, can last a lifetime. And then bands
build
like Cowboys.
loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So, Flavio, Corky, V from Otherwise here in Boise tonight on the road with Lacuna Coil, the Dark Legacy Tour. What's on tap for you guys after you finish up the Lacuna Coil tour?
Probably more tours. More summer tours.
It keeps staying busy. Like in the middle of this, we hit festivals on the East Coast. We hit a couple 98 Rock Fest. We hit Welcome to Rockville. Then we do another Lacuna show. And then we do the Carolina Rebellion. Then we do another Lacuna show.
Right.
And then we head off to do a few dates with Hell Yeah.
Nice.
right before Rock on the Range.
Get to hang out with Chad Gray?
There we go. You gotta tell that story.
Exactly.
Like, I remember you from that.
Yeah. Remember me? I was the kid in the middle of the pit at that one show in Vegas.
What's
Yeah.
going on, guys?
What's up? So yeah, we're doing all that up to Rock on the Range, and then we head back into Vegas before the next tour over the summer.
So anything else on tap that we should know about, fans should be checking, looking for?
Just the record May 8th, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Updates,
Are you guys already selling it at the shows now, or
No.
you gotta wait till it comes
Yeah.
out?
Wait till it comes out.
Gotcha. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for taking the time. Otherwise, buy the album when it comes out. Don't illegally download it. Support the music. Come out and see the shows, because I don't care how good it is on record, it's never as good as it is live. So
Absolutely.
we're Metalholics. We hope you are too, and we'll see you next time around.